Of course, want to thank God for my husband. You know, he's very supportive. He told me, he said, you must going to be up 2 hours because I wasn't available none yesterday. You know, I was, yeah. He was like, well, you must going to be up there 2 hours. But no, it's not. It's going to be 30 minutes or less. I'm not long-winded, and it doesn't take God a long time to say what he needs to say. So I will do what God have for me to do, and I will get up from here. So if everyone would stand for the reading of the word, and I want a reader. If I can get a reader for me, because it's a good bit of reading, not too much, but it's necessary. Somebody say necessary. I want you to turn to Genesis 37, and I need a reader to read verse 3 through 10, and then go down to verse 23 for me. And that's Genesis 37, verse 3 through 10, and verse 23. And when you have it, whomever the reader is can go ahead and read. Verse 23. Okay. All right, let's go to chapter 42, and let's read verse 6 through 8, and then I'm going to let you take your seat. Okay, did you read down to verse 8? Okay, all right. Before you have your seat, I want you to look at someone and tell them, it shall come to pass. You may have your seat. What I love about this story, and when you have the time, if you could begin reading the story about Joseph, starting with chapter 37, and it goes all the way up to about chapter 50. What I love about this story is that with Joseph, in your life, if you make a mistake, the good part about it is knowing that God is with you, and that you shall get the victory. This is about coming from the pit and going into the palace. Now, going into the new year, I know I'm not alone. we have had dreams and they have not come to pass. We feel like in our situation that we're in a pit. But I come to tell you to dream again, because what you have been believing God for shall come to pass. The reason why I chose Joseph, because this is a success story for me. Because sometime in life we go through some things that we feel like we can't recover from. But Joseph made it through, and we're going to walk through his life real quick in about 15 minutes, and we're going to see what did he do that I'm not doing that caused him to be victorious. Now, what I want to let you know, that you got to deal with some things before you can get to victory, or before you can get to the next situation, the next level that God has for your life. When I think about Joseph, the problem didn't start with Joseph. It started with Jacob. As we remember, Jacob was a trickster. He tricked his brother out of his birthright. So he didn't deal with it. And then he carried it on, and then he got married. If you know the story, who did he marry? He married 2 women at first. Who did he marry? He married Leah and Rachel. But how many know he loved Rachel? That's who he wanted. But remember, he was a trickster. Karma is something else. Laban said, work for me 7 years and I'll give her to you. But get this, he was tricked and had to take Leah, because their custom was the oldest had to be married first. But he told him, he said, well, if you work for me 7 more years, you can have your dear Rachel. He worked those 7 years. Somebody tell me that love will make you do crazy things. Now, what he should have done, he should have just waited on the Lord. But he was so wanting Rachel so bad that he couldn't wait on the Lord. And what he did not realize, because he did not go about it the right way, he started some issues that was building up that carried on down to his children. I want to tell all the parents here, deal with the issues so your children won't have to deal with them. Because what happened, because Jacob did not deal with his issues, he carried it into his marriage, and then he carried it on down to his children. Because don't get it twisted. When you sit up here and you favor someone like he favored his wife, you better believe those children was treated different from their birth on up. So by the time that Joseph was 17, he really didn't have a chance, because the other brothers saw him being favored. They could tell, because if he loved Rachel, you know he's going to treat those other kids different from the other. Now, the thing is, we're talking about going into the new year, and we're talking about things coming to pass, but before they come to pass, we got to deal with some issues. Now, if you don't deal with the issues, Joseph shows you with the battle between him and his brother what will happen. You'll be put in a pit. Once you be put in the pit, you're sold into slavery. Once you're sold into slavery, you're falsely accused. You're imprisoned. But the thing about it, the good thing about Joseph, what I love, he was a faithful man. He had faith in God. He had a good attitude, not like all of us. Sometimes when we go through things, we just give up. We start faulting this person and that person. But we don't realize that as long as God is with you, it don't matter what you go through in life, that you will get the victory. So he did not lose his focus. Now, some things God had to work on him in. Now, there was a purpose of the pit, and there was a purpose of him being in prison, because along the way, God had to shave some stuff off of Joseph. Because sometimes when you are favored, you begin to think you're better than the others. See, he wore a coat of many colors, which made him stood out, made him seem like he was special. Now, just like us, we are special. We are bit about Reuben. Now, during this time when he was put in a pit, I want to tell you a little bit about Reuben. Reuben was the oldest brother. Now, Reuben, you know, all of them had a little trickster in him, and I'm going to show you. Now, Reuben, he was sitting up here being the oldest. He thought, well, we can't kill him. So what we're going to do is just put him in the pit. Now, what they wanted to do is kill him and then put him in the pit to make sure that it can't come to pass. But Reuben tried to be a little slick. He said, no, let's just put him in a pit. You know, he won't make it. He'll die. But see, Reuben had other plans. His plan was to come back and get him out the pit. But he was tricked. Because by the time he came back, now he probably was feeding the flock. I don't know what he was doing. But by the time he came back, he was no longer there. That come to tell you, now, instead of him doing the right thing right off the bat, being the oldest, said, no, we ain't going to kill him. We're going to trust God and we're going to let God change this. But no, he tried to please his brothers. And that's what we do a lot of time. We're trying to please others. We try to let people dictate in our life. We try to, in relationships, we see somebody who's good, but they might not be making all the money. We let our friend come and tell, child, that man ain't making enough money for you. Here they go, they ain't even got nobody. And so here it is, you lose out. Just like he lost out, he lost out seeing his brother there. He thought his brother was gone. We can miss opportunity listening to other people and not doing the right thing. But the good thing about it, like I say God is with you. The good thing about it, yes, he went through the pit and he was sold into slavery, but no matter how people try to stop God's purpose on your life, they can't stop it. Said they can't stop it. They can only delay it, and that is only if God allows. Now, the good thing about it, while him being in the pit, God had to work some things on him, like I told you. He had to shave some stuff off him because he was feeling himself. He was thinking he was so special. Now, you better believe going through some of the things that Joseph went through, a heart changing was taking place. Character was being worked on. And like I said, but he had a gift. His gift was to interpret dreams. And now that was the very thing that was going to get him to victory when he triumphed and became governor. Just like you have a gift, but it will be no good to you without faith and character. So these were two things that God had to develop in him, because you got to realize he came from a family of issues and tricks. And God had to make sure that if he was going to be over a country or a nation, that he had to be right, because his purpose not was just for him, but it was for others. It was for the nation. So what we got to realize that when we're going through our process, don't give up, don't lose hope, because God is with you. He's in everything that you're doing. And it might seem like you're going back, but it's just a setup to push you forward. One thing I want to tell you, even in opportunities when you're in prison and it seems like you're not being used, the good thing about it, God will grant opportunities. See, what happened was they brought him out. They came, someone had a dream, and he said, I can interpret it. We're talking about the butler and the baker. He interpreted the dream. And when he interpreted the dream, they saw that God was with him. And I want to let you know, in any gifts or whatever God got on your life, God will show the people that he's with you, because he'll prosper what he has you doing. But the thing is, like I told you, in doing that, when you're being used of God, you got to realize that it is God and not you. Because this is the problem that he made. He forgot about, he's like, oh, God was using me. I interpreted the dream and it came true. But the thing is, what he didn't realize, he didn't give the glory to God. Now, he knew it was God, but he didn't openly give the glory to God. So he wasn't ready yet for it to come to pass. Then after that, when God began to use him, God said, I got to shake him up a little bit. Okay, so he became the masters with his wife Potiphar. He became in position. The man trusted him so much, he didn't even know what he had. He didn't know what he had, but one thing he did know, that God was with Joseph. He trusted him with the very thing. But then Joseph was tempted. How about remember that Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him. And the good thing about what I love about Joseph, he did not give in to the temptation, because he had too much to lose. And I want to say to married couples, and I want to say to singles, you got too much to lose. Because you think that when you give into your flesh that you hurting just you, but you're hurting God. You're doing a sin also unto God. And you have more to lose than to gain. But the good thing about Joseph, he understood that that was off limits. This man trusted too much into me. So you said, well, I don't have nothing in you. Yes, you do. You got your reputation to lose. You got the confidence that people have in you. You got that to lose. You got the respect of your children to lose. So you have a whole lot to lose. So you have to realize that when you're faced with temptation, think again and realize, and even like Joseph, if you're put in a prison, at least if you know that you did it, God will get you out. I love Joseph's story because even though all of this seemed like he wasn't getting to where he needed to be and what God purposed for him to come to pass, he still trusted God. I never saw where his attitude changed. I never saw where he said, I'm going to stop interpreting dreams. But every opportunity he got, he acted on it and he did it. But the good thing about it, the butler and the baker, everybody say butler and the baker. Now we know that the butler and the baker, one tastes the food before he eat it. Yeah, And then, but see, the good thing about it, now one died, which was the baker. He interpreted the dream. But the butler, he was restored back. But he told the butler to remember him. But see, what I want to tell you, now the butler didn't remember him. He forgot. He went on. But see, Joseph wasn't ready yet because he was depending upon man to get him out. And God wants you to depend upon him to get you out of your situation. You got yourself in it, and it's going to take God to get you out of it. It's going to take God to get you to where he has for you to go. So he had to stay in prison some more. But let's say that the butler remembered. Somebody say the butler remembered. God knows how to get you to where you need to be. Because what we got to realize, it wasn't so much that God had forgotten him. It wasn't time yet. Because you got to realize now the dream says that they're going to bow down to him. But see, he understood the dream, but not fully because it had something to do with the famine. So it wasn't time yet. So Joseph went on. And then the butler said, oh, I know a man. He remembered. So they went and got Joseph, cleaned him up. Now, in the meantime, remember, God is working on the brothers. Because sometimes it ain't all the time you that is being, reason why it's being held up. Sometimes it has to do with others. He has to change the heart of man concerning you so that they will receive you and receive what God had placed on your life. So God working on those brothers. Now this the part you better enjoy because I love this part. Not so much about God showing them that he was going to bring it to pass, but just the heart change of the brothers, the heart change of the father, and also his heart change. See, God cannot bring nothing into pass for you if your heart hadn't changed. Because you will take that hurt on into the future. They had to deal with issues that was hindering them. So that when they go to do what God has told them to do, it'll be strictly guided and directed by God, and it will help the others. What I love about it is when he came and he interpreted the dream. He interpreted Pharaoh's dream, but here it is, y'all. He told them he learned his lesson. I'm going to tell you what God said. God answer is what's going to bring you peace. He came to the realization that if I want to be used by God, I got to keep him out front. I got to always make sure that people know that it is him and not me. If you want to be used by God, you got to move yourself out of the way and trust him in every situation that he is with you, so that those who are with you will know how they're to carry out as well. I can't help you if I'm a mess. So they had to do some cleaning. So the good thing about it, when he became governor, this is so beautiful. Then the famine came. So somebody say famine. The brothers, they got hungry. They needed some food. They took that money and go to buy something. See, this is when things are coming to surface, where now you are seeing that whatever God needed to do in you has been done. When the brothers came, they had their money, and they began to, Joseph recognized who they was, but they didn't recognize him. See, when God does a thing in your life, now they might remember the old you, but they won't remember the new you. They won't be able to recognize. I remember you was this way. But when God do a new thing in you, yeah, they ain't gonna recognize it. But Joseph recognized them. He said, you all ain't nothing but some spies. He talked rough to him. And let me tell you why he talked rough to him. Because he remembered the hurt they caused him. And it wasn't because they was holding something, but he wanted to test to make sure they was really honest. See, they said, I'm honest. And I'm no problem in the back of his mind. You put me in a pit. Oh, yeah. So he had to see if you really changed. So he tested them. They began to say, well, it's 12 of us, but one has died, and all of this. They just started telling it all. They were just spilling the beans. And then Reuben, they didn't realize that he could understand their language. Then Reuben was up there saying, I told y'all. He was trying to remind them not to kill him. He was reminding them. So Joseph said, okay, if you're not spies, then go back and get Benjamin. Now, you better know, those boys was like, and that's what sometimes God will require, that thing that seemed most precious to you. He will desire that you trust me with it. Even if you think you're going to lose it, trust me with it, not knowing if I'm going to restore it back unto you. They went back. They said, I don't know what we're going to do. And on top of that, when they went back, the money that they paid, it was in their bag. They said, oh, man, we so doomed. We can't go back now because this money, we done told them people we were honest, and our money's still in our side. But see, that's how the enemy will set you up. He will sit up here and bring your past, and he will set up accusations and things that look like you did it. You probably didn't do it. He'll set you up so that you won't go and pursue what God tells you to do. But the good thing about it, say when you're hungry, you will try again. Yeah, when you're hungry. If you get hungry enough, you'll get a job. If you get hungry enough, if you ain't taking care of yourself, you'll start taking care of yourself. If you get hungry enough, you start sleeping outdoors, you'll manage your money better. If you get hungry enough. So they went back, had a discussion with Dad. We got to bring Benjamin. He said, why did you go and tell him you had another brother? They were scared because they had hurt their brother. They knew what all they had done. But the thing about it, the dad said, I done lost Joseph. Now, mind you, too, I forgot. They kept Simeon. Why did they keep Simeon? Because they had to leave a brother behind. But see, what you got to realize is that Simeon and Levi had just destroyed Shechem. And so Joseph said, I don't trust him. All of them said their heart changed, but y'all leave one back. How many know sometimes you got to look in your environment and you got to look in your circle and you got to weed out people who might stand in the way of what God is taking you. You got to do some weeding out because how many know people can influence you? I have seen good people change. People can influence you. So for security, keep them honest. Like some people, you have to keep honest. We going to keep him back till you come back. And it took years because this was hard for Daddy to send my own. This is the only one. I got Simeon. I got Joseph. He gone. And I got now Simeon, Joseph, and now y'all want Benjamin. Can't do it. Reuben said, well, I'll give you my two sons. Offered up his two sons. They were desperate. I'm offering you to kill my two sons if I don't bring your child back. That's what you call desperate. But when you want something from God, sometimes you have to do some desperate things to show him that you can trust him. God, I trust you. If I die, I just die. So they went on. They finally kept talking. Judah came up and said, okay, I'll tell you what. They can keep me as a slave. But bottom line, I'm going to bring Benjamin back. Making promises. Sometimes we shouldn't make promises. We need to trust God. He made promises that he almost couldn't keep. So they had it down again because God worked on their heart. Because even Dad said, well, okay, if I'm bereaved, I'm bereaved. And if you become a slave, you become a slave. So they had it back. They restored Simeon back unto him. And then got Benjamin. And the good thing about what I love about this, oh no, it was God. It wasn't you who took the money. They were so understanding. Filled the sacks again. Gave them more money, but this time he put a cup in there. That cup was a signal of authority. They put it on Benjamin. But Joseph had to be sure that their heart had changed. So he had to do this one more test before he opened up his heart. And sometimes that's what we need to do in relationship. We too trusting. We just let sometimes, and it ain't just men, it's women too. We just let people come into our lives and do us harm, take them back. Sometimes you got to, okay, now this time in the relationship, I'm going to see how you act with the family. I'm going to wait, man. I'm still going to wait. But if we don't wait enough, we don't look at enough, you know. And so the beautiful part about it, they passed the test. So when they came back with Benjamin, they came back, well, no, they sent him away to go back home, but he sent some people after him. And got him again. He said, somebody got the cup. I said, oh, man, here we go again. Find out it was with Benjamin. They just fell all out. They knew it was over. They knew it was over. Then how can I go back to my daddy and not take Benjamin because he had already lost Joseph? But they had to go back again. But this time, they spilled it out. They said, look, Judah said, look, you can take me as a slave. They told them they confessed it all. And that's what we got to do. If we want to get to the next level, we can't hold stuff back. We got to confess it all because God already knows. And we got to confess it all, and we got to trust that if we confess it all because he's with us, that he is going to do what he said he was going to do. And they end up not losing Benjamin, and they end up gaining everybody, even Joseph. Joseph said, put everybody out. And he talked with them. He revealed. And they couldn't believe it. They was dismayed because they thought the very thing that they had destroyed, they thought he was gone, but he was yet alive. And I want to tell you that very thing in your life that you're thinking that you lost and will never come back alive again. If you do the very thing that you are afraid of, if you just follow the instructions of God, and allow him to deal and to get all of those issues out, you will find out that you didn't lose anything. He restored them all. He had all his brothers. And then one thing I want to let you know, then he also had forgiveness in his heart. He had forgiveness. He said, he even told them, don't even fault yourself. Because it wasn't you that did that to me. It was me because God sent it for me to save you. So what we got to remember, that what we try to save, we'll lose. And what we'll lose for Christ, we'll save. What we got to remember is that we, going into the new year, we got to say, God, I surrender it all. I give it all. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't even know how this is going to turn out. I don't know. But you'll find out that you lost nothing. Just give it to him. And whatever God said to be so in your life, it shall come to pass. If you're in debt, that'll change. Do the work. It's a process. Because ain't no way God gonna bless you with more money and you ain't learned how to handle the little you got. You got to do the work. When you do the work, God will show you what he promised you. And it's not just for you, but it's gonna bless all others. So everybody stand on your feet.